The entrepreneurial life, it's not the safest way you can do things, but it certainly is exciting, that's for damn sure. I didn't listen to the warning signs and I didn't give myself what I needed. I didn't rest, I didn't recover, I didn't tell anyone. And so it just got to a point where, I can't explain it. It was just literally overnight, woke up and I was buggered. Mentally, physically, emotionally, absolutely buggered. Find your purpose, find what lights you up, what makes you excited to get up and go do shit. If it doesn't excite you, maybe it's not the right business.
Back in for 2025, and I've actually had some bolts of inspiration over the holiday period to rename and rebrand this podcast to Beyond Your Numbers. So we've gone from revenue mechanics, which was primarily mainly focused on just sales and marketing, to Beyond the Numbers, which encompasses more of the holistic side of business, sales, marketing, performance, and all the elements that make that up. And to celebrate this relaunch or rebranding and kick off 2025, couldn't think of a better guest to have here than me with Phil, good friend and entrepreneur as well. Phil, thanks for jumping on the show.
No worries, thanks Sam. It's right up my alley. Holistic, beyond the numbers. Yeah, you speak my language.
Yeah, don't treat people as numbers here. People are people. So, with I guess to kick things off and get a bit of an understanding, especially for the audience that don't know necessarily you and your background. Obviously, you're quite an accomplished entrepreneur, up to date, but just share a little bit about, I guess, your background and how you made that transition from a skilled employee to becoming a founder and launching Connects Health in the first place.
Yeah, it's I suppose my journey is a little bit different, I guess. I don't know. A lot of people might resonate with it, but I started out as an exercise physiologist. Started out in clinical work, doing injury rehab, chronic illness, elite conditioning, that sort of thing, and realised pretty quickly that I didn't really like it that much, because when people come to see you as a clinical EP, they're coming to you because their doctors told them they got 5 visits, and they're on a Medicare primary healthcare plan, if that's still what they're called, and they come and see you, and 5 visits later, you often never see them again. It's not a great model, and it's not where we can really have the best impact. So it was a little bit demoralizing for me as someone who's really passionate about prevention and about holistic health. So I kicked around to a few different areas of health and wellbeing, and then I found workplace wellbeing. Started out with a large company, then moved to a much smaller firm, a boutique company that was doing this 15 years ago all over Australia when no one had heard of it. It was called corporate health back then. It was all health checks and let's just gather data and sit on it for no apparent reason. It wasn't quite the same, but there was this one company that was really making a difference. They were going into mines and manufacturing and white collar places all over the place. And I really resonated with that, because then when you go into a workplace, you've got people all over the spectrum. You've got people who are sick, yes, injured, yes, but you've got people who are just before they get sick or just before they get injured, or they want to optimize their health or might just need a couple of tweaks here and there in order to get the best out of themselves. So you've got really the whole range of human experience, which was so much better. It was so much better for me. And I just fell in love with it straight away. I just saw the impact that could be had in this area. I see workplaces as the front lines of modern healthcare, honestly. It's where we get a lot of our issues if we're in dysfunctional workplaces, or if we feel victimized, rightly or wrongly, in those workplaces. But it's also, partly because of that, it's where we can have the biggest impact. I think it just makes perfect sense. For such a small investment, we can really affect a lot of people with this. So I fell in love with it, stayed in it. After, I think it was 7 years with that company, I lived in North Queensland doing underground coal. I lived on the southwest coast of Tassie, doing zinc. Moved to Rockhampton for a couple of years, Newcastle for a couple of years, Papua New Guinea for a year and a half, and it was enough travel for me. I was early 30s. It's a young man's game, that FIFO life, and I decided that I wanted to build something of my own. Went through a burnout experience that really truncated that timeline for me. We can go into that if you like. I think I've spoken about it a number of times before, but that really gave me a kick in the bum to do my own thing. And then Connects Health was born about 7 years ago now, just over 7 years, but I count our birthday as March 2017, because that's when we really kicked off, and we've been going ever since. It is not the same as when we launched. It was originally going to be an app, which was, I'm pretty glad that didn't ambitious. Actually pan out. Ambitious, very. It was going to cost about 200 grand, and we were going to have a pretty shit app at the end of that 200 grand. So it's been a pretty crazy ride, as you would know. The entrepreneurial life, it's not for everyone. It's not the safest way you can do things, but it certainly is exciting. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, definitely. And something that I kind of get from you, and it resonates with my background as well, is I wouldn't say I was a natural born entrepreneur. Like you hear about like Gary Vee talk about, he was selling cans and flipping stuff when he was 5 years old or whatever and making money. And some people have said, you're either born an entrepreneur or you're not an entrepreneur. But I found myself getting into the space more so through general life, workplace dissatisfaction. I mean, like, if I want to really control this, then I need to control my own career, my own trajectory. And that ended up being as a entrepreneur / business owner. It sounds like you kind of went down more of a similar path, and that you weren't, I guess, naturally an entrepreneur, but it was through experience and sheer dissatisfaction that you were like, I just need to carve my own path.
Actually, it's funny you say that, and I agree people can be born entrepreneurs, but I disagree that you either are one or you're not. You can absolutely turn yourself into one, and you're evidence of that. I actually was born an entrepreneur. I had a number of businesses when I was younger. My grandmother had she had a plum orchard on a farm out in Marsden Park back when there was no houses there, just all property. So I used to pick plums in season and go door to door selling them around the neighbourhood. Actually, my first business, I had two that ran concurrently. One was I would clean garages for money for $5, and that was not a very good business, because I don't know if you ever cleaned a garage for someone who thinks they need their garage cleaned because they haven't touched it for 20 years. $5 is not enough. I also started a video rental agency out of my mum's car in the middle of summer. We only had 3 VHS tapes at the time. It was not very successful. However, I did rent one, and that's free money, because I wasn't paying for the inventory and I was getting it back. So a bunch of different businesses along the way. I sold sherbet sticks at school. Used to buy them for 10 cents and sell them for 20 in year 7. So I've always loved business. I've always loved small business and that entrepreneurial adventure. It's just that I found a company that would allow me to do things the way I wanted to do things. They told me, here's where you're going, here's your goal, now go and make it work. And that's essentially what being an entrepreneur is all about. I had to figure it out on the fly, and I absolutely love that. No one told me what to do at any point in time. I was completely in charge of all of it. So it was kind of like having my own business without having the risk involved and without having to do payroll and learn Xero, which I still haven't done, because my lovely partner does all that for me.
Takes care of that.
Yeah. I don't know what I'd do if I had to do all of that. But I suppose I've always knew that I would go into into business for myself. And yeah, 7 years later, here we are.
Yeah, so you're kind of just, I guess, looking, would it be fair to say, looking for that right opportunity, that right timing, and then it all just kind of lined up with Connects, and what I guess pushed you over the edge to take that leap and just go, all right, had enough of working in the corporate world now, time to do this myself.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. And like I mentioned before, it took burning out to actually kick me into gear. I was thinking about the business for at least a year or so, sort of roughly planning it out, doing an outline. This is how I'm going to do it. This is what's going to happen. I was probably about 6 to 9 months off being able to do it financially, but then went through a period of pretty serious burnout, and it just couldn't really work anymore. So I thought, why not just start now and see what happens, which made things very, very, very hard, very, very hard in the beginning. We came extraordinarily close to bankruptcy a number of times, and through the early years, I sold everything that I had, sold 2 properties, sold all of my stocks, everything that I had, and we came within about $600 of going broke at one point.
Yeah.
And that was our lowest point financially. Not depressing, not sad, hard, definitely, but still thrilling and challenging. And I knew that it wasn't something I was going to stop, because I knew we had something really fucking good. And sorry, I don't know if you're allowed to swear on this podcast.
Square away. Yep. Same as
Excellent.
kids.
I knew we had something really good, and I knew it would work. We just weren't there yet. And sure enough, I don't know. I think it's like that meme of the guy who's digging and digging and digging, and then he stops when he's 5 inches away from a gold vein or a diamond vein. That was kind of us. After that, we started to build and build and build, and I'm very, very grateful every day that we pushed through that, and we're able to make it work, because now I wouldn't change any of it.
And because that in itself is not something most people could handle, especially like going from a position of relative, on paper, what people would call successful corporate career, a couple of properties, investments, sacrificing it all to pursue a business, nearly seeing it go under, and still persevering to the point now where Connects is one of the most well-known brands, or at least in the corporate well-being or business well-being space in Australia. What held you through those times? What were you saying to yourself when you were on that, I guess you call, like, close to a rock bottom period, to not give up and actually follow through and still chase the dream?
I suppose that's a great question, because that's the thing that really matters. It's 2 things. One, I think the most important thing was the support system that I had. My partner, friends, family. A lot of my friends are entrepreneurs as well. They've been through it. They understand what it's like. We talk about it all the time. We can bounce things off each other. They can offer a lot of support. So that really, really helped. I had and have a very, very strong social and professional support system around me. And the second thing was, I knew it would work. Like, it had to work. It was too good of an idea, and it was too valuable a service to not work. I just couldn't. I think what I was really bad at, and I'm getting better at, is the marketing side of it. Honestly, that's kind of how we started talking initially. I had a great idea and a great service that would work, that I wasn't getting out there anywhere near as well as I should. And we still don't do it as well as we should. And we're working on that. You and I are talking this year on exactly how we do that. I just knew that we had this great thing that the world needed, and that I believed in and felt proud to do that wasn't making as much money as I wanted yet. So yeah, stuck with it and really, really glad I did. So those two things, support first and foremost, and second, knowing that it had to work because it was it was too good not to. So yeah, still
Interesting.
probably should have given up at different stages. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend it to people. Like if you get that close, yeah, I don't know. Every case is different, but yeah, for me it worked, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, right.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. First, like I really want to know what happened when you got scammed. I didn't know that, so let's if we've got time, let's get into that later. But just quickly on the everyone should start a business, I don't believe that at all. I get asked all the time, oh, should I start a business? And my default answer is no, because it's fucking hard. Like people say, oh, it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. You're like, yeah. No, I know it's going to be hard. And you don't realize until you're in it, like it is the hardest thing you'll ever do. Like, oh my God. And I mean, you can equate it to anything. I suppose everyone says, oh, this is the hardest thing you'll ever do, or that's the hardest thing, or a marathon is, or parenting is, or whatever. But the failure rate of businesses is super high. And if you're not all in, and if you're not ready to weather that storm, because there will be a bunch of them, then probably no, business is not for you. And I was talking to a friend about this, and I was talking to a group of friends actually about this, and one of them got the shits. Well, sorry, one of them accepted that and said, yeah, no, you're probably right. That's not bad advice. And another one got shits and said, basically, F you, I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm like, okay, well, good. Maybe you've got it then. First guy, no. Second guy, yeah, probably. Because you got to be all in if you're going to do it. But yeah, it's a really good point that if you are all in, it can lead to burnout because everyone's relying on you. Everything comes down to you. The buck stops with you, so you got to do everything. And if you don't do it, it doesn't get done. So it can lead to overexerting yourself. However, I mean, there's a lot of studies that have been done on entrepreneurs, and the protective factor of having a really strong purpose is enormous. It's like the old Viktor Frankl quote: "Man can, if a man has a strong enough why, he can bear any how." There is a massive protective factor with having a purpose. But what happened to me was I was in Papua New Guinea running a health program on a gold mine over there. There's 6,000 workers, most of them nationals, the rest expats, a lot of Australians as well. I had a team of I think it was 7 or 8, grew to 9 or 10. We had psychologists, we had nurses, we had physios, we had EPs, everything, and we were looking after 6,000 workers. 2 teams on a 16 to 24 day on, and between 8 and 12 days off roster. You'd typically be on site by about 5:45, 6 o'clock, and you'd be back in the mess by 6:30, 7:30. So most days are between 12, never under 12, often over up to 13, 14, 15 hours. And you do that for 16 to 24 days in a row. And you're not only managing a team, but you're interacting with people daily. So you probably do between 10 and 20 consults a day. So that's 10 to 20 people whose issues you're dealing with. Often stress and mental health come up. People will bare their souls to you. You'll get at least 2 or 3 people a day who cry, which is fine. It's great. And I love helping people that way. But compassion fatigue is a real thing. So when you put physical fatigue with mental fatigue and compassion fatigue together across 18 months, when you're doing it for 16 to 24 days at a time, and often I'd work when I came home because I had to, because there were days that no one else could cover, and I could. So sometimes you're not really getting any time off at all. It doesn't take a genius or an expert on burnout to tell you that over an 18-month period, that's not going to work out for you. And it was the warning signs were definitely there for a while, but basically I woke up one morning and I had sort of lost the ability to care, which is so incredibly unlike me, and it was very, very confronting for me because it's very central to who I am, and the importance of the work hadn't diminished at all. What we were trying to achieve was still there. We were still driving towards it, but I just couldn't bring myself to care anywhere near as much as I did and as much as I knew I should. And it's just, my capacity had shrunk so much because I didn't listen to the warning signs, and I didn't give myself what I needed. I didn't rest, I didn't recover, I didn't tell anyone. And so it just got to a point where, I can't explain it. It was just literally overnight, woke up and I was buggered, mentally, physically, emotionally, absolutely buggered. And then, that was the swing that I put in my notice. I had one more swing where I trained up the new guy, and then that was it. I was done. And then the reason I don't count our incorporation date as our birthday is for 6 months I was working about an hour a day. Just couldn't bring myself to do anything. And for all those budding entrepreneurs out there, there's not a good way to start a business. Working an hour a day for 6 months. But I just couldn't do anything. I didn't really recognize it at the time as I was burnt out and I was still trying to recover. I just thought I was lazy, which added to this immense guilt that I had and this anxiety, because when you're not working and you're not bringing in money, you got no money. So it was, that was a difficult time, definitely a difficult time. But I got a lot more intentional about rest, about recovery, about giving myself what I needed, and now I'm extremely intentional about that. And I will always sacrifice a little bit more work for optimal recovery, because I know over a longer time period, me being able to work sustainably and work consistently is worth a lot more than just squeezing a little bit more out of today or out of tomorrow or out of this week. So blessing in disguise, really. There's I think about this a lot. Like, this is part of the business. I'm really fortunate in the fact that the stuff that works is the stuff that we teach. So I get to apply the principles that we sell to people for money, which is awesome. So I'm literally researching and figuring out different ways to make people better at this, and I just apply that to myself. So first and foremost, there's a few really, really important things. I work out what's going to keep me healthy and well over a long period. And those things are sleeping well, moving well, eating well. Obviously, there's a lot around that, but that is the 90% of health. Like all the kombucha in the world is not going to save you if your diet is shit. And all the coffee in the world is not going to save you if you're sleeping terribly. Like, it just doesn't work that way. So the 90% is movement, sleep, diet. So I plan that into my day. My day literally has blocked out training, and that's 5 days a week. I cannot book anything over that. It just doesn't happen. If something comes up and I have to book something in that training period, the training period moves. If the training period can't move, then I can't book something in. I exercise every single day because that keeps my head right and that keeps my energy up, and that's an absolute non-negotiable. I've also scheduled in my sleep period, and nothing encroaches on that unless it's an absolute emergency, of which there are vanishingly few that are actual emergencies. So that's the first thing. I plan in the things that I know my body and my brain need, and I stick to those religiously, particularly movement and sleep. I've also worked out what my ideal performance pattern is, and we work with companies and teams, high functioning teams on this a lot. Working out individual performance pattern, we track 4 types of energy across a 24-hour period: physical, cognitive, social, and emotional energy. And essentially, you're rating out of 10 how much of each of those spheres of energy you have across a 24-hour period. Ideally, you do that for a week and then average it out, and then you get a graph. So my ideal performance pattern has my energy peaking in the morning, from about 6 to about 11:30, starts to dip a little bit, then about 1 o'clock starts to decline very quickly actually, and around 3 o'clock it bottoms out and I'm absolutely garbage. It has a small uptick later on and then falls off at about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then I'm useless after that. So what that teaches me is don't plan to do a lot of stuff or a lot of hard stuff in the afternoon or in the evening. Plan all your hard stuff for the morning, protect that time as much as possible, or the early evening. And to your point before, don't go for diminishing returns. So something that'll take me an hour at 8 a.m. might take me 2 or 3 hours at 3 p.m. So I just don't do it at 3 p.m. And what that graph also allowed me to see is my social energy keeps climbing. So my physical, cognitive, emotional, they start going, or emotional stays up actually. Physical and cognitive start going down and bottom out at 3. But that's roughly when my social energy is peaking. So I don't do things that are difficult for me, but I make sales calls. I come on podcasts. I talk to people. I meet up with friends. I do things that require my social energy but don't require my brain to work very, very much, which is my excuse. If any of this comes across as dumb, my excuse is my cognitive energy is low right about this time. But that's a really key way that I do it. I'm all about efficiency, effectiveness. I don't want to throw good energy after bad. I'd rather pack it in for the day and start again fresh tomorrow and do a good job rather than doing a bad job now and costing myself time and energy for it. So I've become very, very intentional about that and really strict. There's a million other ways, and we literally have a 4-hour workshop on exactly how to do this. But those are the broad strokes. Those are the 2 really big, the really important ones. The first step would be to audit your health behaviors, to audit your lifestyle. What are you doing at the moment? And what are the broad strokes of what will give you more energy, more focus, more time, those things. And really, what we're trying to do as people who want to be productive, people who want to perform, we're trying to bring this 3 spheres of time, energy, and focus together as much as possible. If we have just one of them or even just 2 of them, then we're wasting both. So that is our goal, and what is going to do that what is going to do that for you throughout your day? We can't just keep throwing time at work, because if we don't have energy and focus, we're wasting time. So that's the first thing, auditing your health behaviors. How are you bringing those 3 spheres together? So then we break it down to how are we getting more energy? Is it through movement? Is it through diet? Is it through sleep? Is it through hydration? Is it through coffee? How are we getting more energy and how are we getting more focus? It's not a difficult thing to figure out, because most people know the broad strokes of health and well-being. Like we've been told for years, you see it everywhere. Most people know what to do. The issue is we don't get intentional enough about this sort of stuff. We don't plan consciously for our health behaviors. We just let the chips fall where they may. We work and then do whatever we have time for. But becoming intentional about the things that bring you more energy and more focus so you can apply it to your time and actually perform at a high level, That's what we really need to do. So that's where I would start, performing a health behavior audit. Then we go down the rabbit hole of optimizing those things. But most people don't need to optimize, they just need to friggin' do it. Like, you don't need to know what the best exercise is for you. The best exercise is just to do exercise in the beginning. After that, you can start to optimize, but just get it done. Don't worry about perfection. Don't worry about any of that. Just bloody well get it done. Yeah. Yeah, God, that's a great question, a very, very complex one, but I'll give you the high level. So one of the biggest challenges is that well-being is over here and work is over here, and never the twain should meet. If we're going to engage in well-being activities, then we have to sacrifice some work activities. Now, in some respects, that is true, but in a lot of other respects, the two integrate and the two are additive to each other. So we can integrate well-being practices into the work that we're doing, as long as we know what to do and we're open to actually changing it. As long as we give a shit, which is the most important thing. Commitment to bettering well-being for yourself and for your team and for your organization is the number one way that we change it. That's the number one way we achieve it. Commitment is far, far greater than resources. Resources without commitment is a waste of resources. Commitment without resources, you're still going to get measurable change. So understanding that we can integrate well-being into work, and then figuring out how to do it, and knowing that the time and effort spent on doing that is more than worth it in the end. So a huge challenge that we come up against is people think this is all hippy-dippy, new wave bullshit, and this never happened in my day, and no one had any issues. Yeah, no one had any issues in my day, and they just don't want to work anymore, and all that other absolute nonsense. There are better ways. We can do better, and we can make things better. We can perform at a high level without burning out if we integrate well-being practices into work. So first and foremost, the willingness to change, the commitment to well-being, and then putting in the time and effort to actually figure out what's going on. Now, there's not one template that we can apply to all organizations, to all teams that works, because every team is different. Every organization is different. It's like people. There are broad strokes, but everyone is different. So what we need to look at are the environment, first of all. What's the workload like? What's the physical environment like? What's the psychosocial safety climate like? What are your communication practices? What's the workload? A million different things. And then we work on team wellbeing dynamics. So how are we as a team? What's our skill level in terms of wellbeing? What's our awareness level of our own wellbeing and our team members' wellbeing? And how able do we feel to influence that? And that's what we call team wellbeing dynamics, having that awareness and having the skill level to integrate wellbeing into work and to actually make measurable change. So that's one of my favorite things to do, one of my favorite things to work on, analyzing that data, looking at those environments, and then implementing change at a team's level. I love that. It's great. Creating high functioning teams is my favorite thing to do, because it's just, for such a small time and effort investment up front and then consistently over time, you get enormous benefit. If people realized how much they could get out of it, it would just become an absolute no-brainer. I suppose it's like exercise and good sleep. Once you start doing it, you're like, holy shit, why have I not been doing this the whole time? This is incredible. The penny finally drops that, I should have been doing this the whole time. But yeah, it takes the awareness that something needs to change, and then the commitment to actually change it. Yeah, that's a leadership thing, honestly. Coming from, because if you have the mindset of churn and burn, like there's a million other salespeople who'd kill to have your job, so work as hard as you possibly can, and once you're Once you're burnt out or once you leave the company, cool, I'll just get someone else to do exactly what you're doing. If that is the perspective of leadership, first of all, that's absolutely abhorrent. Second of all, that's really hard to change. They're going to be incredibly resistant to any change. And unfortunately, that exists in a lot of different places. We often will get called in by senior leadership and given the mandate to impact their teams, to change team wellbeing dynamics, to do whatever. And then we run into line managers who are hard-nosed and couldn't care less about this wellbeing nonsense. My team's fine, it's all good, whilst they have the highest turnover in the company. But they don't give a shit. So it goes back to what I was saying before, that commitment, that awareness that something needs to change, and the commitment is the most important thing. Now, if you have that, then there's a million different things that we can do. But it starts with understanding that people cannot maintain peak performance over a long period of time. Otherwise, it wouldn't be peak performance. It would just be like, it goes completely against what it actually is. Yeah, exactly. What we're aiming for is sustainable performance. And one of the questions that we ask people is, do you feel you have the capacity to ramp things up if you needed to? So if something crossed your desk that required you to turn things up by 20%, do you have the capacity to do that? Most people say no. Most people are working as hard as they possibly can, or as hard as they feel they possibly can. That's a terrible place to be. You don't want to be working as hard as you possibly can all the time. Like if you're an elite conditioner and you do that to your athletes, you'll be out of a job in months once they realize that you're running them into the ground. There's a lot that we can learn from elite athletes and elite sports about how to perform at a high level over a long period of time. And what they understand is that if you're getting 80 output, you're giving 80 units of input, you're getting 80 units of output generally. And you can do that pretty much indefinitely. If you're giving 100 units of input and you're getting 100 units of output, eventually that's going to start to slip. You're going to get 95, then 90, 85, 80, 70. You're still putting in 100 units of effort, but now you're getting diminishing returns over time, and that is unsustainable. So trying to explain that to managers, that they're going to get greater performance over a longer period of time if they don't push their people, drive their people into the ground. That's probably one of the most effective ways that we can start to change that mindset. It's not always effective because some people are just dicks, but it's the most effective way. Like the numbers say you're going to win in 6 months if we make these changes now. But yeah, it's tough. It's a tough game sometimes. Yeah, good question. And we've thought a lot about this. So yeah, 2 questions in there. Where would we like to be at the end of 2025? What we've developed over years is a system that we are essentially replacing EAP. We don't have time to get into all of my thoughts on traditional EAP and how it's run and the business model of that, and incentivizing low engagement in an industry where high engagement should be the norm and what we should be striving for. But anyway, we've devised a system where we're replacing EAP with something a lot more proactive, something that is pay as you go, so businesses are not paying this exorbitant upfront fee based on 30% engagement when they know they're going to get 2 to 3. But you have to have EAP because otherwise, who's going to fix all of your mental health problems? Said very tongue-in-cheek. So we've devised a system that essentially incorporates that. I shouldn't say replaces, incorporates everything that EAP does, because it's a very, very important support system, support pathway for people, but it's just done poorly at the moment. In a very general sense, I don't want to... There are some people who are doing it right and they're doing it well. So I certainly am not lumping everyone into that, but traditionally EAP has not done well. So we've devised a system that we replace that. Much more cost effective, much more effective, much higher engagement, and that's what we're rolling out this year. So where I want to be this time next year, or when we break for Christmas, because we always break for Christmas, I want Connects Health's method to become the new method. Connects Health does not have to be the practice or the provider of this system in every organization. I think that's absolute hubris to think that we could do that, and I don't want that. I want to create a system that works, that other people can copy. I don't give a shit. You can, if you're going to do it well, come in and do it, copy it. Who cares? I want this system to be the system that is adopted en masse all over the country and eventually all over the world, because it works. It has been working for years. It continues to work, and it works for everyone. Everybody wins when we employ this. So I want us to spread it around, but then absolutely other businesses come in, copy this and do it, because we can only reach so much. We're also applying this to the early learning sector, what people refer to as childcare. It's the same system, and it's an industry that is so drastically underrepresented in terms of wellbeing initiatives, and it's such a critical industry, and I can't believe that it hasn't been addressed yet. So we're moving very heavily into early childhood education sector. We've already got some great inroads there. We're making a lot more, as you know, and I'm really, really excited about that. So where we want to be next year, developing a new system for people to use that actually works, applying that to corporate, to our current clients, to our new clients, and also the early childhood education sector. So there's a lot of work. It's a long way from here to there. We're already on that road, and if things continue to go this way, it'll happen. But I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the work. I'm ready to go. Had a really good break. I'm going to Bali in a couple of weeks, and when we get back, it's all systems go. So this is going to be, I think, in a lot of ways, the hardest year of our lives. But I'm looking forward to it. I suppose it's different for everyone, but I guess my advice would be, find your why, find your purpose, here we go. Let's distill it into this. Find your purpose. Find what lights you up, what makes you excited to get up and go do shit. If it doesn't excite you, maybe it's not the right business. It has to excite you. You have to really, really love it and really want to do it. And then I would very, very strongly recommend that everyone works out their personal values. So purpose and values are two very different things. They're additive to each other, but they're very different. So your purpose, what you want to achieve, the impact that you want to have in the world, and let's hope it's a positive impact. And then align your behaviors with your values. If you do that, then you can't go wrong. You can't make wrong decisions. You can have outcomes that are suboptimal, sure. But if you make decisions based on the information that you have, directed towards your purpose and guided by your values, you cannot make a wrong decision. So that would be my advice. Work out your purpose, work out your values, make decisions that achieve your purpose based on your values. That's how I do it. It's what makes me continue to love this after 7 years, and I don't see myself slowing down. And you're right, the money stuff, the revenue stuff, as soon as you said it, I'm like, oh my God, how fucking boring is that? Like, if we're just tied to sales targets and revenue and all of that, that is not how I want to live my life. I know, an element of that has to come into it, but if you're doing something good and you're achieving your purpose and you're doing it in a way that is, if you're doing it in the right way, the money comes. The money follows that. Don't worry about the money. It'll be there. Just achieve your purpose and do it in the right way. And you'll be fine. LinkedIn is definitely the best place to find me. I'm there all bloody time. Phil Wolf, just search Phil Wolf or Connects Health, you'll find me. Everything that we've talked about is on there. I've got thousands of posts that talk about this stuff, that teach you how to do it. You can go to connectshealth.com.au and check that out, but LinkedIn is the best place. If you want to get in contact, send me a DM, check out my stuff. You can read all about it, read all about me, and figure out basically who I am and what I stand for and how I do things before you ever have to jump on the phone with me. And then, yeah, if you do want to, then get in touch. But do it through LinkedIn, because, yeah, I'll be there, promise you. It is, yes. Yeah, there's two versions of it. So we've got the Sustainable High Performance, which is an organization-wide sort of a DIY version of it, with follow-up exercises and things that managers can put in place. I love that one. It's really cool because it allows me to do some of the work and then puts the onus on leadership, which is really cool. It's the way it should be. And the team wellbeing dynamics is the zoomed in version of that. So we typically do the sustainable high performance for the organization, and then we'll work with specific teams, whether it's your high performing team or your lowest performing team. That's typically the two ends of the spectrum that we get, unless we're doing it organization wide. So yeah, they're both publicly available. So yeah, that's they can reach out to us for it. I believe it's on the website. If it's not, it bloody well should be. But yeah, they can reach out to us for it as well.